The first time Elena saw him, he was a dark silhouette against the burning light of her gallery window. His tall frame and sharp edges contrasted with the soft, warm glow of her carefully curated world. She was working late, as always, brushing the final strokes onto her latest painting, a turbulent sky streaked with reds and purples. She didn't notice him at first, not until the chime of the gallery bell startled her, and she turned to see him standing there. "I'm sorry, we're closed," she said, wiping her hands on a stained apron. He stepped forward into the light, his face a study in quiet intensity. A strong jaw, dark eyes that seemed to notice everything, and a faint scar running from his temple to his cheekbone. "I'm not here to buy," he said, his voice low and even. "I just wanted to look." Eleanor hesitated, then shrugged. She wasn't one to turn away an admirer of her work, even if he came at odd hours. "Suit yourself," she said, gesturing to the walls lined with her paintings. He moved slowly, like a predator stalking prey, examining each piece with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. His eyes lingered on a painting of a lone figure standing on a cliff, waves crashing below. "What's this one called?" he asked, his back still to her. "The Edge of Solitude," she replied. "It's about the choices we make when we feel utterly alone." He nodded, as if her answer confirmed something for him. "Beautiful," he said softly. Then he turned to her, and for the first time, she noticed the faint tension in his posture, the way his hand never strayed far from the inside of his jacket. Later that night, Eleanor would replay their brief encounter in her mind, wondering why it left her so uneasy. She didn't know that the man was watching her from the shadows outside her gallery, debating whether to kill her. Kieran had been sent to eliminate her. The contract was clear. Eleanor Marlowe, 32, an artist known for her evocative work, had unknowingly painted something she shouldn't have. A detail hidden in one of her pieces, a face, a name, a place, had drawn the attention of powerful people. People who didn't want to be found. He'd studied her from afar for weeks, learning her habits, her routines. She worked late, drank too much coffee, and sometimes fell asleep on the couch in her studio. She was talented, yes, but also ordinary. Or so he thought. Until he saw her work. The paintings were alive in a way he hadn't expected. They seemed to whisper things he couldn't quite understand, emotions he hadn't felt in years. And the woman herself. She was nothing like the cold, clinical descriptions in his briefing. For the first time in his career, Kieran hesitated. Days turned into weeks. Kieran found himself returning to her gallery, always after hours, always with some excuse to stay close to her. Elena began to grow used to his presence, even looking forward to their quiet conversations. He asked questions about her art, her inspiration, and she answered with a mix of passion and vulnerability that disarmed him. "What inspires you?" he asked one night as she worked on a new piece, a forest drenched in golden light. She paused, considering. "Pain, mostly," she admitted. "The things I've lost. The things I wish I could change." He swallowed hard. "And if you could change them?" Her smile was sad. "I wouldn't be the person I am now." He stared at her, wondering how someone so open could exist in a world so ruthless. And for the first time, he began to doubt the people who had sent him. The night of the hit came as he knew it would. He was standing in her studio, watching her work on a painting that shimmered with hope and despair in equal measure. The silence between them was comfortable now, like they'd known each other for years. "Kieran?" she said suddenly, breaking the quiet. He tensed at the sound of his name on her lips. "Yes?" She turned to him, her eyes searching his face. "Who are you, really?" The question cut deeper than he expected. He could lie, of course, but the weight of her gaze made it impossible. Instead, he said, "Someone who shouldn't be here." She frowned, confusion flashing across her features. "What do you mean?" He stepped closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "You're in danger, Elena. You've painted something you weren't supposed to. And I was sent to make sure no one ever finds it." Her breath caught, but she didn't step back. "And what now?" Kieran reached into his jacket, his hand closing around the cold metal of his weapon. But he didn't draw it. Instead, he met her gaze, his own filled with something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. "Now," he said, "I make a choice.